Hello, welcome to the Tenfold AI podcast. I'm Heather, joined by Matt. We're the co-founders of a company that happens to be the sponsor of this podcast called ProMode.ai, the first ever AI-powered marketing engine for B2B companies that completely replaces the need for a marketing agency or a large internal marketing team. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. But the intros have gotten better and better
Have they?
week. Yeah. This is, that was your 20th.
Wow. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Episode 20. That's cool. That's maybe like our collective number of views. But that's okay. I mean, this actually might be a good time to tell anyone who is listening on YouTube why we would make a podcast. So, in the world of marketing, and I'll talk about it we don't have to be on this very long, but I'll talk about it from the marketing standpoint, and you can maybe mention from the business standpoint. So, on the marketing side, in the world of B2B marketing, podcasts are really great ways to show thought leadership, to make yourself an authority in a space. And it's not primarily so that people watch your whole podcast in a place like YouTube. It's so that you can take clips of that podcast and throw it in places like LinkedIn or shoot a clip in an email to a prospect. So we've done that for 20 episodes now, and we'll continue doing that and getting better at that. But it's a really fresh, organic way to create content for ProMode and for what we're trying to do here. And you and I like to have conversations about AI anyway. We kind of are both armchair philosophers and just really into the space. So we always have stuff to talk about. So it made sense to can it and make a podcast.
Like, I agree. It is like the most efficient way to constantly have something coming out, right? It is. I think to have it be like a central hub of just like where do the ideas come out, where are the concepts, and then you can even then break it up. Like when we post shorts, it's just very interesting to watch the analytics of it because you'll have certain topics or headlines will just like clearly pop, just one day. There's really not, I mean, we're just doing it randomly. I don't know what we're talking about today. I don't know what's going to be clipped out of it, but it does show you sort of qualitatively what are the things that people are paying attention to and what is the language that they understand in these things. I know oftentimes I am just super guilty of talking about a subject, especially AI, in a way that I understand it or a way that I learned it, or maybe a way that it was communicated to me that was like a light bulb moment. And I'll just watch people, staring at me blankly as I'm talking about it. And so by having like a extemporaneous conversation like we have here, it's a really good way to sort of be cognizant of the words that are coming out of your mouth as you're talking about your product and your technology. And just it forces you to talk about things in a certain way, I think. So yeah, the
It
efficiency,
does.
the
Yeah.
practice, I think, is the
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
And it just so happens that we can take the transcripts of these podcasts, load them into ProMode, into our database, and generate content in every format based on the content we're talking about,
Yeah. I
which
would,
is wild. So we can create social content, blog content, email content using these conversations as our database.
yeah. I mean, obviously that we're biased, but I do really want to take a moment to highlight, if you're starting a company and you don't, or whether you're starting a company or you have a company, there's two things that you really need as far as getting your voice and your name out there is you do kind of need interesting content, right? Like there has to be something compelling, something original, something with a little bit of personality to it. Uh, and and it has to be consistent. You know what I mean? So your options with that, or is just that you as like the fucking owner of the company or some marketing director is just like live streaming your life and not actually doing any work in your business. That's cool. Like if you want to become a full-time fucking influencer or something.
Right.
But you know what I mean? There is something to be said about like influencer content is popular because it's good quality. And but like if you're trying to run a business and not be an influencer, how do you strike the balance between efficiency and quality? And I would say that just using, we're talking about tools today. Maybe this is a good segue. Like Riverside.fm fucking rocks. I mean, it is
Mhm.
so easy to use, so easy to take clips out of it. It's like customizable enough, like, okay, could it be Final Cut Pro? Yeah, but also I don't want to hire a video editor to do this and make these cuts. So it's like exactly what we need, perfect balance of efficiency, and then feed that shit into ProMode, and it is a low lift. It truly is as far as
Yeah.
quality to efficiency ratio is just
Yeah.
we're I like
And
it a lot.
eventually, I hope that we have a live studio that we can go to and we sit in the same room, and because I do think that is another layer of authenticity and you get something different out of it. I think that's just how humans are. But yeah, I mean, this is really a low lift and it's
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we want to, you and I are always talking about like what tools are we using? What tools are we hearing about in the AI space? Some of them are directly related to things we do every day. Some of them are things we would never use but sound cool. And, we talk a lot on this podcast about avoiding shiny object syndrome. How do you know if the juice is worth the squeeze on a tool or if it's just a party trick? Just today I went into my phone and how it'll show you all your subscriptions
No.
in Apple and you can like delete your subscriptions, which I love. Thank you, Apple, for making that possible to easily see all of them and cancel them. If you're like, holy shit, how do I have that? Just today, I deleted like 4 subscriptions that I did not know I had. And they were like 60 to 80 bucks a year. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. One icon looked like glasses. I don't even know what it was. It might have been a fraud thing. Who knows? But, you know, we're analyzing what subscriptions we use. It all adds up, 20 bucks here, 50 bucks here, 80 bucks here a year adds up. So, it's important that we think about like, what are these tools? Is it just a party trick? Does it do something another tool I already have does? Right. So, thought it would be fun to bring a few tools to the forefront today, things we have either actively used or know enough about to want to talk about it. So, yeah, you mentioned Riverside.
Yeah.
We
I
like
mean,
Riverside.
yeah, I am a huge fan of Riverside. Like,
Yeah, it's a solid.
I just recommended it to like 3 people this week,
Yeah,
actually.
and so we're talking about AI tools, but and Riverside doesn't position itself primarily as an AI tool because I believe it has existed for a few years. I'm not sure how long exactly, but they certainly use AI in like the video editing capabilities, which we love because it saves a lot of time.
Most elegant, which it is so counterintuitive. There's something that I just love so much about an elegant design choice, like a really interesting counterintuitive choice. And one thing I do love about Riverside is it has editing by transcript. So you're actually not editing the what is that thing called? The playhead, the as it's going through your feed. So you can do that, but the primary UI for editing is the transcript. Like this
Mm-hmm.
section right now where I'm rambling on about God knows what, I can actually just go and find this section of the transcript and say, okay, I wish I hadn't have rambled on so long and delete the text. And the video is edited as a result. It's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. And it's easy to join. Like if you're a guest on someone else's podcast and they send you a Riverside link, um, it's just like joining a Zoom call.
Mhm.
So super easy. Okay, so we're gonna call this little series AI smash or pass. And yes, that's a riff on, I don't know, like celebrities. You'd show a picture and it's like, would you date them or not? I'm saying
Yeah,
date to
G version.
be PG about it. You know what we are talking about. We're all adults here. So, first on the block is Fixer AI. Let's see if I can. Fixer or Fixer 2 weeks ago, I think, maybe a week and a half, something like that. So, let me talk about their marketing first. They are aggressive on ads, particularly social media ads, Facebook ads. They do a great job. They promise saving 1 hour a day with an AI assistant. Fixer AI organizes your inbox, drafts extraordinary emails, and writes better than human meeting notes. So that's kind of their brand promise. So you subscribe to this. I want to say it's like $50 a month. There's a few tiers. I'm in the $50 a month tier. It integrates with your email. So in my case, it's Gmail, but it also integrates with Outlook. And it instantly organizes your inbox and flags your emails in a system that they created. So they have like a pretty I mean, it's a pretty good system of how they organize, categories. Like, is this an email you need to respond to? And it's reading the content of that email to know if it's something you would likely need to respond to or not. Is it something you it's is it just an FYI email? Like, is it just a notification? And then it seems to automatically kind of remove marketing emails and spam and nonsense from your field of view. It doesn't delete anything or send anything without your permission, but it does kind of clean up your view.
Mhm.
So, uh, so we've created a few categories here that we're going to talk about these tools
What
in.
May I comment on the Fixer thing really quick?
Absolutely.
Well, I full disclosure, I Fixer is like definitely one of the tools that would be like an eye roll thing for me. And if I'm going to be honest, when you were first talking to me about it, I was like, you've got like we have Gemini in our inboxes right now. Why not? And then you showed it to me. And I think I maybe got in your email and looked at, I can't remember
I think
under
I shared my screen.
okay, yeah. So anyway, I looked at it and it was it was clear that the choice that Fixer made was to make a lot of decisions for you, which I do like that in a product design where like all of these options are available elsewhere, but we know that 95 to 96% of people who use this thing will want these settings. So it's one of those things that when you turn it on, it's like working immediately. And a lot of the decisions that it's making from a design standpoint are decisions you would have made when you were going to set up Gemini.
Right.
Like
If I knew how to do that. Yes.
exactly, exactly. So it's does to me highlight, and I kind of peeked at the other tools you're going to talk about. One thing that I do find very interesting about this time in AI applications is that it is obvious that where we are today is the age of the app that has made certain decisions for you.
Mhm.
And I think that that is very much because uh, I don't think people quite have wrapped their head around what all is possible. And so they can't come up with the things that they want on their own. And so I think
Sure, yeah.
this stage of during this phase of AI, application development, I think a lot of it will be the product designers will be having to lead people to learn how these things work and
Mhm.
learn to even ask for what you want, you know? That's a yeah, that
Yeah.
is a really cool way that and Riverside's the same way, it's like, we made these decisions for you because we have observed people really closely, and we know that this is probably what the majority of these people will want.
Mhm. Interesting. Oh,
And
I could
and you're willing to pay, like, your subscription for that is, like, legit probably 8 times more than the, like, built-in version of it,
yeah.
you
They
know?
do have a 0 entry sales model though. So, first 30 days is free.
Yeah.
It's kind of that freemium model, which is a big reason why I was like, "Fuck it, I'll try it," you know? But the main draw for me, so the movie Her, which we've talked about on this podcast before. In the movie Her, the first thing his AI assistant does is organize his inbox. And of course, in the movie, it's like flawless. She's talking to him in an earpiece and she's like entertaining about it, like, you have this. Oh, why are you subscribed to this? Like, well, let's get rid of those. It's like a lovely experience that is not real. So when I watched that movie several years ago when it came out, I was like, oh my God, I would love that so much.
Mhm.
I would love that because I am not someone who is good at email settings. I am just not. So I've got the most cluttered inbox you've ever seen. It's a mess. And that's just my reality. Right. So to me, this coming out, I'm like, is it going to be as good as in the movie? I knew it wasn't, but to me, it was worth a shot. So, so let's see, wallet damage. How painful is the price tag? I would say for the promise, the price is fine. For me, it would be worth it if I experienced this promise. It is interesting that they call it an AI assistant. I think that's generous for what it does. I think of an assistant probably being a little more proactive, I guess, or I don't know. I think of more value.
Can I ask you okay, I wanna ask you a hypothetical question now. So, the thing that you're talking about building, or, like, that assistant or even that her version of it, right? Probably it would be difficult to make an inference related to what you want to have happen in your inbox from reading your inbox. Do you think you could, at if prompted, like, once a week, if your assistant prompted you and said, like, "What are your priorities? What are the deals in the pipeline? What are just what are you trying to get done this week?" Do you think that you could give that assistant enough specificity to then be proactive? Because that would be the thing that would be necessary, is that the user would have to have you know, a 1 or 2 week view into the future, right? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think if I could if I could only see anyone who's emailing me who's in my CRM, anyone emailing me with the word introduction, introducing me to someone, anyone asking me for a meeting,
Mhm.
even if it's a salesperson, like show me anyone who's trying to get my time. That would be that'd be very good.
Yeah.
Those would be top priority for me to look
I'm
at.
gonna even take it a step further and say, like, what if you named current, like, I'm just using sales as an example because that's what you do. But if you were able to name like deals that you feel like are close to closing or whatever, or like, here's what my pipeline looks like. And then you told that assistant, like, how are you prioritizing and thinking about that pipeline? And then that assistant would say, hey, Heather, it's been 6 days since you followed up with Julie. And I actually noticed something in this message about some connection. This might be a good excuse to like reach
Yeah.
to Julie without seeming real pushy.
Yeah. Oh, any of those insights would be golden for sure.
Mhm.
'Cause Google does say, you know, sent 5 days ago or sent 10 days ago when I have sent someone an email and they have not responded. So it does remind me that I sent something and I'm waiting for a response, but more often than not,
Yeah.
there's no action item for me to take. And occasionally I'll think of something like, "Oh yeah, we I know the nature of that conversation and they definitely should have responded. So I will call them or I will email them again because I know that's appropriate, you know? But the system doesn't alert me of that. So brain to output ratio, how easy is it to go from idea to usable results? I mean, it set itself up. Like I subscribed and then I logged into my email and it had done what it did, you know? Onboarding was seamless, I suppose. Promise versus payload, does it actually do what it says it does? So, does it save me an hour a day? I would say no. I don't perceive that it does anyway. Was I measuring my hours before? No. Is it saving me some time? Maybe not time. It's saving me mental capacity because what I am seeing in the top of my inbox is almost always relevant.
Is your trust level in that high?
Good question.
Or do you find yourself ever double checking its work?
I don't even know if I know how.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you would. How
Like, I don't know how to, like, overwrite it without deleting it. Just being honest.
plug it back in?
Organizes your inbox. I would say yes, it organizes my inbox. Drafts extraordinary emails. Absolutely not. No. Does it draft emails? Yes. Do I find it annoying that it drafts emails? Yes. Because I think most salespeople can relate to this. If you are in a deal with someone, you do not want an AI message. Not today. Like it is too risky. There's too much on the line. It's too delicate in process when the deal is in process. When we're talking cold outbound, when we're talking marketing, it is different. When you're in the midst of a conversation with someone and you have, you know, minute details that you remember that they said they were going to St. Louis next weekend and you can reference that. Or, like there's an empathy that's necessary.
Totally, totally. I
Well,
think you. No,
what's this reaction?
I well, I just it's just funny you say that in say like I am also just very against AI written emails. I've done it like 3 times, and every time I'm like, ugh, I do not like this at all.
Yeah.
There is a nuance that cannot be captured, uh, and even yeah, there's just a nuance that cannot be captured that is moment by moment. And I was laughing because I believe my inbox is in the corner of my eye. I believe you were on a email thread related to website edits. This is something that I've learned from doing just so many design revisions on so many apps and so many websites. There's a thing that you have to do to you have to be like a comforting mother and like and then you have to be a really like you wait till dad gets home
Yeah, yeah.
and it is and there is just no way that you could capture that thing because really the thing that you're trying to say is like nobody knows what you're talking about when you're talking about designs. It is this vague thing that only you see in your mind.
Yeah.
You think that anybody could understand what you're saying, but like that's the real thing that you're saying is like figure out what you want is what
Huh?
you're saying, but you have to say it in a like you have to say it in this way that's like very clear, not being a dick, but it's
Yeah, it's a
like I would
well,
never I would never be able to do that.
it's one-to-one communication is a relationship, right? Like, that's what it is. So, no, the emails were not great from Fixer, and I found it annoying because I would have to delete the draft. Like, it auto generates the email, and I have scanned them all pretty much, and I'm like, "Absolutely not." Like, delete. It's not happening. I have not even once used one word from it. So to me, that's irrelevant. Is anyone doing that? Maybe. Maybe someone who's not in sales, but you're telling me you didn't like it for project management either, which I can understand. So I can't even really think of a great.
You know what? I would use it for a help desk, a view.
Yeah.
If you're a start, like shit, I probably might do that. Like, we're probably close to needing something like that. Where, fuck, that is actually a really good use case of this. If you're a startup and you don't have like a fully, you haven't built like an in-app help desk yet, where tickets are received, et cetera, I bet you could probably set this thing up to manage a help desk, assign
Yeah.
priorities to things. And it could just be like, then you just have a web form in your app or on your website on a landing page, whatever the case may be. And you can just receive support requests or design changes, whatever the case may be. And then use this thing. This could be your little help desk.
Uh-huh.
Really cool, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm also a little bit spoiled because with ProMode, we use retrieval augmented generation, and I know that when we edit and delete or you reject things, that machine learning is happening, and then the content is getting better and better, and it's learning. And I don't think that any learning is happening with the emails with Fixer. I don't think that there's a database somewhere that's housing how Heather talks and then fine tuning and optimizing for my approval.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't have hope that it would get better.
Yep.
And then writes better than human meeting notes. I did not use the plug it into my video calls, right? My Google Meet. I didn't use that function because we already have a meeting, assistant that joins the calls and transcribes the meeting, and we are happy with that. So I didn't use Fixer for that. So for me, it's a pass. Fixer's a pass. So I'll be deleting it. And who knows? Maybe I have forgotten how bad it was before Fixer and I'll go back to Fixer. Who knows? It'll be an interesting experiment. So for me, Fixer's a pass. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably overall give it a 5.
Yeah. I'm gonna really Fixer founders, if you were listening to this right now, I think solid. I bet you could sell a $200 a month version of this thing and just tune it to be a help desk. I'll be the first fucking customer for that, actually.
Yeah.
Um, just think, I mean, agencies. I mean, like, just think about the amount of I've been, getting on a bunch of electric skateboard aftermarket manufacturers, submitting questions to get spec sheets from them. I mean, you know that I've got like 10-day wait times on these guys. I mean, they could just like, that would be a perfect thing for
Mhm.
or for e-commerce brands, things like that. Man,
For sure.
I
Yeah.
might I might smash Fixer as a help desk application. I would smash.
Okay. Interesting. See, that's not in my purview, so I wouldn't think of it, but I'm glad that you did. Okay, number 2, smash or pass, Gamma. So Gamma calls itself a new medium for presenting ideas powered by AI. That's their slogan. And full disclosure, they did just rebrand. They have a new logo and a new look that's on their website, but this was their up until I think like yesterday logo, which I actually miss because I do like these colors because they stand out. The favicon stands out in my tabs very well, and their new logo is blue, and I have a lot of blue logos with Google Docs or yeah, Google Docs and LinkedIn and several others. So now it kind of blends in. I don't like that. Anyway, Gamma. So it's essentially a presentation software. You build proposals, presentations, sales decks, that kind of thing within the app. Wallet damage, I think it's like $20 a month, maybe less. I should have looked that up before. I did not. We do subscribe to it. I use it for decks, for presentation decks. Um, yeah. So what do you think of Gamma? So you've used Gamma.
Yeah, I just spent a lot of time. Okay, so things I like about Gamma, I like the UI is I don't know if it's actually built in Notion. I don't know if the app is actually built in Notion or it just has a very similar UI, but I do really like that I like the backslash function. So you can backslash just like in Notion. If anybody's used Notion, you're familiar with what I'm talking about. But you can have all of these blocks, columns, basically all of your components are accessible from a backslash menu, which I'm a massive fan of that UI. I did not use any of Gamma's AI features, although I think for charts and graphs, in hindsight, I wish I would have used that instead of just a Matlib, whatever thing I ended up using. But I one thing I do like about it is that there is like non-AI flexibility in it.
Mhm.
So you have like you can generate, it can be AI generated, and then you can go through, make edits, regenerate graphics for a certain place, regenerate text, go back, clean, you know what I mean? Clean it up a little bit. So I do like these, sort of hybrid, especially when it comes to anything visual. I like these hybrid sort of like AI and not like analog. It's the only word I can think of, but just like an analog AI hybrid where you can kind of get a draft going with something visual and then begin to manipulate that draft.
Yeah. Yeah. I've used it a lot. I've probably spent easily 100 hours in Gamma in the last 6 months. I really like it. I do. Uh, I am not a graphic designer. Duh. Matt's like, yeah, of course, we know this. And I find it easy to use. Before Gamma, I had used Canva, Better Proposals. I still do use Canva sometimes. Like if I have a really specific kind of custom image I want to create, or, you know, image might not be a good word, like graphic illustration. I don't know. Like if I want to make marketing funnel and then tell a story about that funnel and put everything exactly where I want it, I'll probably create that in Canva, save it as an image, and then upload it to the image compartment within Gamma. But I have had a lot of luck with the AI generated images within Gamma. I think they are very, very good. If you're new to the AI game and don't care to learn a ton about image generation, like if you're a salesperson and you just need to make presentations, or, a business owner and you're like, look, I don't want to do Mid-Journey or any of the more deep AI image generation stuff, do Gamma. It's way easier. I think the quality is really great. They usually don't look like AI generated graphics to me. They look like something you would find in a clip art studio, you know? So let's
That is another
see.
cool. That is a cool bit about game. I just thought about as you're mentioning that it because they have niched to presentations. I mean, to like decks and keynotes and things like that. You can really get good imagery out of that. Like if you're just gonna take, if you're just like do Occam's razor on photorealistic image generation, lions with, a creature with a lion head and a like hippopotamus body or something. If you can just say, okay, none of this stuff will come out of here, you put your brand colors in at onboarding, and then it just is kind of like it's flat vector graphics. And so then you just know whatever image generation model you're using can be highly tuned to flat vector graphics. Your colors are already in there. It's a deck that looks custom, unlike Canva, where everybody and their mother is using the same template. You
Uh-huh.
go through Canva templates and you're like, okay, well, fucking 90% of these are garbage. And so then everybody ends up using the same 10 things and maybe doesn't go through the work of updating the colors and font and weights and things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a really cool way. Yeah, that's interesting. By limiting your image generation capabilities to this format, you end up getting some pretty damn good shit coming out of
Yeah. And consistent, because that's really difficult to do if you're pulling one off images from ChatGPT or Midjourney. It's really hard to get a set of 20 images that are cohesive in their vibe. And with Gamma, it's really easy. The other cool thing it does, which we have not done, but could do if we wanted to, you can make that whole presentation a page on your website. You can link it, like, apparently in one click. I have not tried it, but you can link it as a page on your website. I don't know if that's an indexed page, an unindexed page, anything like that, but that to me sounds cool because if I'm a salesperson on the go and I just want to tell a prospect, hey, I'm in their office, right? And I say, just pull up our website. And then I can have them navigate to that tab that is my sales presentation. And I didn't have to connect to their Wi Fi and open my, you know, file on their, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, what else about Gamma? I wish that I wish that certain parts of it were a little more nimble. Like, I wish that you could change the fonts within a presentation easily. You can change the sizes, but to change the fonts, you have to like go behind the scenes and change it in your brand standards. And I wish there was a little more versatility there. Yeah. So I give it a smash. I think it's great. I think it's brilliant to have a presentation software that's a subscription model. As a business model, it's great. I don't know. I like it.
It's a
I'd
good,
give it a 8 out of 10.
How much is the subscription?
I don't know. I wanna say between 10 and $20 a month.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's I'd hit it.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you begin creating a presentation, it says that you can upload a PDF and it will just turn it into a presentation. That is a bit clunky, and it's not like you're gonna have to edit a lot, but it's kinda cool to do that, and hopefully it'll get better.
Yeah, that is cool. And it's a good, like, I love a good, it's a, we've talked about it before how like VC backed startups end up just being the customers of VC backed startups. Like there's just so few startups that are solving actual real world problems, aside from that little ecosystem. And now, especially in the AI space, it's just like turbocharged. But
Sure.
I would say Gamma is for that use case of like VC backed companies being the customers of other VC backed companies and then hitting some level of supposed exit velocity. For startups, you need a million decks. You have a million versions of a million decks. It truly is a subscription that is just going to be used like crazy.
Yeah.
So as far as
Yeah, and
product market fit, there's a good one there too as well.
yeah, and does it replace Canva? No, it does not replace Canva. I still use Canva all the time, creating a LinkedIn image, a graphic, other formats besides presentations, right? Like that's going to happen. But yeah, I like Gamma. I find value in it, and I've recommended it to at least 10 people. So, okay, zooming way out.
Uh,
Perplexity. Do you use Perplexity, Matt?
I just had a I had a weekend with Perplexity and I was like, this is such a good tool. Yeah, let's see.
So their brand promise, while you're pulling that up, Perplexity isn't a chatbot, it's a tool. A direct line to the world's knowledge, compressed, cited, and made clear. Ask a question, any topic, any level. So it's a search engine. Do you think Perplexity replaces Google?
Man, I'll tell you what, after for buying things, I think for commerce, it really does. I'm going to share
For
what
buying everything or for buying expensive things?
for buying expensive things. Well, okay, I want to share this with you. I have wanted to share this with you for a while now, actually, because like you being in marketing, I think this is going to be a really interesting case, you know, interesting buying behavior case study. Okay, so I've been having some issues with my motor on my electric skateboard. So I'm looking for conversion. So looking for most recommended. So first I did a search of Reddit. So did all of these popular forums, got some recommendations. And now we're looking at DIY conversion kits, moderate ease, direct drive. Okay. So now we did a further filter right there. And now I'm giving really specific things. So compatible with a certain deck, range, the degree of incline, which is pretty crazy. And then, so we've got speeds. Everybody knows how much I weigh now. And then and now they're ranked by ease of assembly. So now I have these. And so now I've got this in a table and then we're going and now build a setup because these are all individual components that have to be sourced from different locations. So I have a parts list for each component option, prices, links where to buy anything, and I wanted to know if they have live sales phone support.
Hmm.
And so, and there's like several, and then eventually I got down to like, can I take this thing? Oh, and then I did rank each of the brands by positive mentions on very active forums, and and then eventually I started getting into TSA questions because I want to take it so I can take it on airplanes. And so then we did some watt hour conversions right
Oh my
here.
gosh, this is like physics.
And then, so then we look at different options here. And so like it basically, this whole experience came down to, yeah, buy one of these two things. Like, you know, after throwing in the FAA parts of it, then we've got two options.
So for shopping, it's good. For commerce, it's good for highly considered purchases.
Is that the name? Is that what it's called? Highly considered?
So a marketing agency I know uses that term to describe B2B clients. The
Mm,
highly considered purchase is another way of saying expensive.
okay. Okay.
Things that usually, but or if you're a nerd and everything's a highly considered purchase, like if you like to nerd out on, you know, like tech gadgets that may not be very expensive, but you want the best one, the best mouse for your computer, the best coaxial cables for this and that, things that I would not care an iota about. But I know people do. Like my husband he likes to research deeply and understand things deeply. So he would, go down a rabbit hole
Hmm.
for something like that. So for commerce, yeah, I could see that. I think it doesn't replace Google. I was in an SEO conversation on a Facebook group the other day. It's like an SEO mastermind group. And I just kind of infiltrated, and I like to watch the conversations that these people are having about SEO. And they were talking about, will AI search engines replace Google? This, forever they're talking about this. Um, and I commented and said, AI search engines like Perplexity will take the place of Google for highly considered purchases. And I gave an example. I said, for instance, if you want to know what pair of jeans your butt's going to look best in, people are still going to use Google.
Hmm.
Why? Because Google shopping images, magazine articles with images, and, you know, social media influencer YouTube videos being linked in Google. Like, that's a Googleable ask. But if you want to know what cybersecurity company your company should use, you're going to want you know, you're not going to care about images and ads. In fact, you don't want those things. You want research, you want data, you want, you know, real answers on a pretty technical level.
And those answers have become like, speaking of SEO masterminds, I mean, like the amount of dribble that has infiltrated SEO has made that type of research damn near impossible. You
Mhm.
Really, if you just kind of want to go unlayer deep on anything, it's like,
Yeah,
where do I find this?
right. Yeah, and maybe you don't want to know who the best maybe you're more savvy than that. Maybe you're not looking up who is the best cybersecurity company in Kansas City.
Mhm.
Maybe you want to start with a more academic question, like what requirements should I be looking for? And also, I don't want to hear it from a company who's going to try to sell me.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to hear it from a CISA website source. Show me a peer-reviewed empirical data white paper on cybersecurity for orthopedic surgeons' offices.
I've got a question for you about jeans now.
Okay.
Okay. So when you said for buying jeans, I thought you were going to just say Perplexity is definitely the best place.
I
Jean,
thought I meant like genetic gene codes,
man,
buying genetic sequences
you
that
can find
make my butt look good. Change my genetic code to make my butt look good in jeans.
you can just buy umbilical cords and
Right. The
stem
dark web.
cells. Um, that's really funny.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Okay, this is where my mind goes, and so I'm curious if you think that there is ever if this would ever be a buying behavior. But I think about like the brand Madewell. That's like the only
Mm-hmm.
brand I know.
Okay. Yep, I know it.
But Maggie,
Owned by J. Crew.
okay, yeah, Maggie loves Madewell jeans. So I'm thinking to myself, this is how I would buy jeans, is I would go to Perplexity and say, like, find the specs of these Madewell jeans, like the inseam, the butt circumference, like all of the like what are the proportions of this jean? What is the softness of the denim? And then I would say now go find 10 other brands that are within like a 5% give or take on all these specifications. You think anybody ever ends up buying something that way?
Okay, now we're getting into a branding conversation.
Yeah, that's
Now we're not talking about the product, we're talking about the brand. So the only way your wife would ever do that is if Madewell went out of business.
okay.
And if for some reason those were the only jeans that fit her. And I know that that's not a fact because she's,
Mm,
she's not a, she doesn't have any physical deformities or anything. I happen to know this. So she would be fine in lots of other jeans. But the only way a consumer would do that who's buying on brand, like people typically do with clothing and less considered purchases, let's call them emotional purchases. The only way someone would use something like Perplexity for that is if that option were no longer available because they're buying on brand,
mm,
which is why it's important to build your brand.
yep, yep.
Because the Madewell brand, and I know your wife, the Madewell brand is so her. Like everything about their brand. It's very, and we're getting into kind of a marketing conversation, but I think it's relevant to this conversation. That brand is very much tailored and laser focused on the the kind of woman who wants to have something really good, but she really isn't flashy.
Okay.
Like I want to buy quality and I want it to be kind of like it's like the Whole Foods brand, like the store brand of Whole Foods.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Like
does
I
make
want
sense.
quality, but I want low key. Low key, like not luxury. I don't want to feel like it's luxury, but I want it to be nice. I got myself something nice,
Yeah.
but nobody go thinking I'm crazy here. Like, don't think I don't think I'm flashy or glamorous.
Yeah.
That's who that brand is tailored for. They eat granola bars. They like Birkenstocks. They lean a little left, but their dad doesn't. Well, it's like that is who the audience is. So, no, she would never go to Perplexity and say, give me something that's like Madewell, unless Madewell does not exist anymore.
Okay. I do. Okay, yeah, their font does give me that vibe. Yeah.
Hmm?
They've got
It's all neutral colors. You're never going to find neon craziness.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah. Like, could have bought it at a thrift store, but I didn't, and you know it, and I know it. And
mhm.
it's unassuming luxury, I would say.
Hey.
Yeah. But no, Perplexity is great for deep research. My feeling is that for the world of B2B, when we're talking about cybersecurity companies or we're talking about commercial HVAC, we're talking about very expensive purchases that are business decisions. Therefore, they're not emotional. You're not buying on brand. You're buying on deep research, on data. I think that's why B2B companies need to have AI SEO on their radar because the buying pool of people who will be early adopters, I believe, will be B2B buyers
Hmm.
because I know what they're buying. They're buying um, software, they're buying security solutions of all shapes and sizes, they're buying insurance, and all of those decisions are highly considered,
Hmm.
which means you need a lot of information. You need information you can trust. And that's where Perplexity knocks it out of the park.
Yeah. Yep.
So wallet damage, it's free, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. The free thing is powerful. Yeah.
Is there a paid?
There is. Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that. I've just used the free.
I think it's like $20 a month. Yeah. It's
Everything's $20 a month.
crazy.
Yeah.
You can add files to it. See this, my good.
Really?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I would just put all of my fun toys into Perplexity and then just be able to find new shit. It would be terrible.
See, I've never used Perplexity for buying
Hmm.
outside of business. I've researched things for business purchases, but never for personal. Brain to output ratio, how easy is it to go from idea to usable result? I would say very easy. I use it a lot in research for presentations, for sales research. I need data on, you know, what's the alternative to my solution? What percentage of people are using a marketing agency today, right? Like when I'm looking for facts and figures and numbers I can trust, I'm going to Perplexity.
It also
Pro-
is great,
Mhm.
like if you want to just get the general sentiment of users out there, it's Reddit or like it's just its general forum search is top notch.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's pretty clear we smash Perplexity. Um, I don't know, scale of 1 to 10. What are you?
To me, Perplexity is a 9. I don't go to it as often as I should. I normally go to it in emergencies, and then I find myself being like, why is this not my just like homepage when I open up a browser? Because it again, it is one of those things to where I go to it as a last measure. I don't know why. It always delivers. It just is a weird, there is something weird about being able to type right into a Chrome browser and that be a search. That is a barrier to entry for me. But I would definitely, so yeah, I give it like a 9.5, but it's just like, you know, a girlfriend that I don't treat that well. Like, I don't give her enough attention. I don't give her, I'm dating a 9 and I don't give her the attention that she deserves.
Well, I think yeah, I could see that. I can see that. But it's also like when I use Perplexity, I know it's going to be a minute. Like I'm going to be in there for at least 30 minutes.
It's a good point.
And,
Really good
and
point.
Google is more of a quick hit. Like, where is this restaurant? You know, like what, it's give me the calendar to my kid's school district. Boom. Okay. There
Mhm.
it is. whereas Perplexity is more of a deep research. I'm going to have time to spend in there. It's more of a decision. I will say I think their name is too long and I don't like their logo. I think their branding needs some work. To me, their branding still feels very VC. Like it feels like a working title
Mhm.
that should be shortened to something.
I will say that I can't remember when. I think it was when we did the episode about all of the stuff that's just chapping our ass about AI. One of my big things is my huge pet peeve is when when people use Chat GPT as a web search. Like it's the wrong tool for that job. Because people always love to call out factual inaccuracies with like, real time results from things. Perplexity is the tool for that job. Like, if you want to use AI to replace your Google search, don't use Chat GPT. There's a million things that GPT does it way better than that. Perplexity is the way to go, I would say.
Yeah, I would do if I'm going to rename them right now, okay? Okay, Perplexity people, if you're listening, new brand name, Dive. DYV. Dive. And if you jump on it, dive.io is available. And I think you could get dive.ai. Uh, you can actually get dive.ai.
And you already have that you have the verb built in already.
I would call it dive. And the mark I would make something indicative of that, water, diving, an incline, like make it very strong. And for God's sakes, make the favicon attractive. Like we see it at the top of our screens all the time. The Chrome is really good. Like they know what they're doing at Google. So yeah, I'd rename Perplexity Dive. The audacity, right? Um, okay, what else do we have here? The last one on my list. Full disclosure, this is the one I know the least about from a user standpoint. But I've done a lot of research and I've talked to people who have used it firsthand that I trust. So we're going to chat about it. It's Blaze. Their promise: build your brand effortlessly. Blaze is your AI assistant for better marketing, built for agencies and small businesses. Smarter marketing starts with better tools. Boost productivity with Blaze AI. First of all, I think it's interesting that they say they're built for agencies and small businesses.
Yeah, that's a range.
Right. Because agencies are usually serving mid-market and higher.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know much about this on like it definitely is in the category of like it adds AI to an existing tool. So it's like a social post scheduler that has AI integrated into it. So you have AI, you know, writing content on a piece by piece basis. And so just instead of you putting the text in the text field in a tool like Sprout Social, You have, you have an LLM in there doing that writing for you. Like, I mean, obviously this is like we took a very different approach to how we build a similar thing. You know what I mean? So I think to be even-handed with it, we chose a different direction for how to build a tool like this. I mean, clearly, I think that we made a better decision, but who knows? It's tough to say. I think in the way that we were talking, okay, we were talking earlier in this episode about website edits, right? And when you think about the person having a website built for their business, it means a thing to them. There is energy behind it because when you're on the receiving end of those edits, really what you want is just to say, send me the link to the exact picture that you want here. Don't, if you tell me that you want something that feels more spring-like, okay, what does that mean to you? And like, what does that mean to me wherever I live compared to where you live? I don't know what spring feels like to you. So just give me the image that goes here. I think that when another example of this, you were just talking about Madewell. It's like, it's not the specifications. I mean, you could just recreate that entire gene exactly, and it people wouldn't buy it. Um, so I do think that when it comes to this idea of like brand communications and marketing, messaging, things like that, people are operating from people don't have the ability to take a concept of what they want to see and convert that into a content calendar. So I don't think the keyboard lift that is provided by having a large language model write each individual piece of content, I don't think that it ends up being a critical piece of the equation. And that's just because people don't think like that. I'm of the opinion that when it comes to these like subjective, emotional things, you have to automate so much more of it. You have to basically automate everything except for that subjective, emotional input output. And you have to play this weird guessing learning game as to what do these words mean to you as the end user. So I think to do this thing without an element of machine learning in there to where you are learning, what do these people mean by springtime? How does that make them feel? Here are some pieces of content that are just auto generated, and let's see how this makes them feel. Like, let's just learn from it, because if somebody is rejecting content that to one person might feel like springtime, well, clearly that's not that representation of springtime to them.
Yeah, it's
That was-
subjective.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, I mean, I've talked to people who've used Blaze, and I have not talked to anyone who says it's good. Granted, the people I've talked to work at larger companies and we're testing it more for curiosity, professional curiosity. They're marketers who work in large companies and they wanted to see, and they like AI. So they're like, let me see what this is. And they're like, no, immediately could tell it was not going to pass muster for their company. Um, Looking at their website, it looks like they're pretty transparent about what they are and what they are not. So their pro version is $37 a month. You get, and it's interesting the language they choose. You get one seat, three brand kits. So I'm assuming you can upload three different sets of logos and colors, three accounts per platform, 150 posts per social, 300,000 AI words, 15 plagiarism scans, which is interesting, and 15 source materials. So you can upload 15 unique documents of your own. Uh, and they're very transparent. They say to get the same value, you would need Canva Team, ChatGPT Pro, and Hootsuite Professional. So really what Blaze is a combo of those three tools. That's it. And then they have just, um, you know, economies of scale brought the price down for everyone for those three tools to the $39 a month or $37 a month versus paying $149 for those three separate tools and both ChatGPT and Hootsuite. So there's no strategy, there's no customization as far as like, there's certainly no optimization, machine learning happening. You're not building a database, and it's completely siloed within social. So that's the only box you're checking with Blaze. All that said, for the price, if you're happy with the output for the price, go for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think a good use case would be if I mean, honestly, I think the best product market fit would be somebody who is using ChatGPT plus some type of Hootsuite scheduler. Like if that is how you are managing, if you're an agency managing, you know, managing social for a client, and that's how you're doing it today, this is a better option. I mean, this is a more efficient option than that. You know, uh, do you are you still needing to come up with like creative briefs and sort of having meetings with clients about how they like stuff and engaging with clients back and forth on email? Like, yeah, you're cutting out like a fourth of a full-time employee, you know
Mhm.
and so
Maybe. I don't even think that actually, but
yeah,
yeah.
like in that use case, yeah, it's it's a solid tool for that. But I just think my impression, and this is just having been a part of building these, just like designed branded things for businesses, like they view that differently. That's their baby. That's their, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
there's a little bit more learning that needs to occur inside of it, and put the ability to input feeling states and comments in the way that people actually do when it comes to this type of stuff is, I think, a critical piece of the UX.
Yeah, I would agree. I think their promise versus brand payload, does it actually do what it says it does? I don't think so. Build your brand effortlessly. Building a brand is a lot more than throwing an image on a Canva piece, generating a chat GPT prompt or, generating an output through chat GPT and posting something on social. And anyone in marketing knows and appreciates that. Building a brand, getting your wife to buy her jeans only from Madewell ever was not done using a $37 a month tool.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So, is it going to build your brand? No. Is it going to streamline your use of AI for social media? Sure. Yeah, it will. If that's your only objective, it will do that.
You know what? Yeah, I like, for, every business that I've ever had, there has always been some part-time employee that I have had there who had a function of, you know, they got, paid a couple grand a month, and a part of their duties were to just capture the activities of this business, put it into Hootsuite, make sure there's just shit going out all the time, right? Um, and I would basically every time I would hire this person, there's been like 5 or 6 of these people throughout the years. I would just be like, "Hey, here are the tools that we use today to manage this workflow. You tell me what tools you wanna do to manage the workflow, research what you like. We'll do a month trial, whatever." Like, if that was a thing that I was doing today, I would say, "Use this. This is the thing that you should use for managing this." We're not, nobody we're not doing e-commerce. We're not like, the business is not online. Like, if it's a brick and mortar small business or something like that, this is a great tool. If you've got some young person in college looking for a part-time job that just intuitively that they're just like a branding native. They just have a good, there's a tons of kids like this, 22 years old, working the front desk. You understand what looks good on social media because you spend your entire life on it, and then reverse engineer that with this tool here.
Right. It's like if you're happy with the quality that they're doing today in Canva and ChatGPT, then this will make that faster and a little cheaper.
Mhm, mhm.
You'll save $100 a month.
Yep, yep.
But is it gonna radically transform your company and build your brand and grow your audience? And are all the ships going to rise in the tide? No. That's yeah, so I would say pass unless I am, one of those use cases that we mentioned. Yeah,
Same,
that's
same.
that's what I would say. This was fun. We cruised through a lot of tools. We'll probably do another one of these in the future after we kinda build up another little Rolodex of companies to talk about. It's
Dig
been
it.
fun. Any final thoughts of tools or
No, I mean,
fun stuff?
yeah, I am just what has been really fun, this particular episode has been fun because it's been cool to see the evolution of some of these startups, and then I do get the sense that the AI marketplace is beginning to emerge. Like, we
Mhm.
were able to just now rattle off, here's who this tool is for, here's who this tool is for, here, like, you know what I mean? For each one, we had like, oh, this is clearly the market for this type of thing, which I find really cool because it means that out in the zeitgeist, people are understanding a little bit more about how this stuff works. And so you see companies slowly figuring that out. You see consumers figuring out, okay, I use this tool for this thing. And these are all new workflows that have just never existed until now. And so, again, to see this market begin to emerge has really cool.
Mhm. Yeah, it's starting to take shape. We're hearing these names outside of our conversations, We're not having to look so far to find them. They're popping up every day. Yeah, it's been fun. So this has been the Tenfold AI podcast. Again, I'm Heather Gertis, joined by Matt Scanlon. We're the co-founders of ProMode the sponsor of this podcast, and check us out. It's a very cool platform. You manage all your marketing within a single login, no prompt platform. We use advanced AI processes. We save a bunch of money compared to using a marketing agency or a robust internal team. And we're growing and moving and shaking. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Matt.
Smash us.